Hi, I'm Emma from Honeybuns Gluten-Free Bakery in Dorset, and we're bringing you today another really quick, versatile recipe that is very forgiving in terms of the ingredients that you can swap in or out. So it's a great one for using up dried or fresh herbs if you've got those growing in the garden, windowsill, lucky you, or the dried versions in your cupboard. Similarly, you can switch around various different gluten-free flours. Many of you will already know that Honeybuns is an exclusively gluten-free bakery. This recipe is for crackers. They're called Coriander Dippers, and they are gluten-free, they are dairy-free, they're not vegan because we do have egg white in this recipe, and the recipe is from a very beautiful all-day cookbook available, unashamed plug, online on our Honeybuns online shop. So what we're going to do is weigh out the ingredients. I would weigh it straight into your food processor. If you prefer, you can mix using a handheld izzy-wizzy electric mixer, if that's easier. First of all, 70 grams of ground almonds are going to go in. You can use other ground nuts if you haven't got those or they're too expensive, which they are a bit toppy on the price. You can top up that 70 grams. Instead of using the ground almonds, you can just up the content of the gluten-free flour I'm going to use here. So here I'm using 125 grams of tapioca flour, which is a naturally gluten-free flour. If you haven't got tapioca flour, you can use sorghum, you can use gluten-free general purpose off-the-shelf flour. And like I say, you can make it up to, what would that be, 195 grams total of flour if you don't want to or you haven't got the ground almonds. Then you're going to add in 2 tablespoons, this is my massive one, you're going to use a slightly smaller one than this, so I'll put 1.5 of these big ones in, of oil. I'm using here, I believe, just regular olive oil, but you can use rapeseed, corn oil, whatever you fancy, whatever you prefer, it really doesn't matter. Then we're going to have 1/4 of a teaspoon, it doesn't have to be an exact science, err on the side of generosity I would, of gluten-free baking powder, and then 4 teaspoons, and I don't know where don't know where they've gone, 4 teaspoons of crushed toasted coriander seeds. Coriander seeds are beautifully aromatic. You don't have to bother toasting them, but it does add something if you do. You get a really lovely roasty toasty flavour, and to achieve that all you need to do is spread them out on some silicone paper on a baking sheet and pop them in a hot oven for 5 minutes. To crush them, just literally pop the seeds on the paper and crush with the back of your spoon. Stick those straight in here along with 3 tablespoons, it's not exact, tablespoons of fresh chopped coriander leaf. If you don't have that, it's best, I think, to avoid too many of the stems because they can get quite stringy. So you just want to roughly chop the leaves, stick those in here. If you don't have the coriander seeds or you don't like them, and ditto with the coriander leaves, feel free to sub anything in. You can use chilli, you can use fresh or dried mint. Fresh mint would be gorgeous because it's coming up now in May. You can use garlic, roasted crushed garlic, cracked black pepper, keep it dead simple, just a little pinch of salt, whatever you want to do. So it's a super, super versatile mixture. You whiz all of that up in the processor, and then you get a ball. I've divided the dough into half. I've already, and I'll show you in a minute, I've already baked some off from the other half of the dough, but that gives you an idea of quantity. And it's quite handleable and malleable. I would say that when I did this recipe as a practice run, because it's a while since we wrote the book now, I was refreshing my memory and I stuck to the recipe like glue. Those who'll know me will know that's a bit of a rarity. And it didn't quite work. It didn't come together as a dough. I think that may have been because of the variability with the free-range egg whites that you also add to the mix. You add 2 of those, and I think that just because I was using quite small eggs, that's all I had, it didn't quite come together. If your dough doesn't behave as it should and come together as a malleable entity, then you can always add more oil, or I did an extra egg white so that the dough starts to form a ball. Now with this, I don't think, judging by, this is dried out a little bit and it's really quite handleable, it's not too sticky. I don't need to flour my hands and I don't need to oil the paper, the baking paper. If it is sticky, you can do one or both of those things. What I'm going to do, I've pre-cut the silicone or baking paper to the size of my baking sheet, my baking tray actually, and I'm going to roll the dough out. In the book, it says roll out to a rough square. I'm happy with that, it doesn't need to look particularly amazing aesthetically. But you do need to get it reasonably thin so that it bakes through and you get a really crisp cracker rather than any moisture, wetness left in the centre of the cracker dough once you've baked it. So get it to about 2 mil if you can, which I know is a really irritating. I can't really come up with any better guide really. It's pretty thin basically. You then delicately peel off that top silicone paper, which you can reuse, and you've got a beautifully vibrant, fresh green herby dough mix. Again, I haven't aimed for any kind of perfection in aesthetics at this stage. With a knife, reasonably sharp, score, meaning mark it almost all the way through. You don't have to cut all the way through, into the shape that you want your crackers to be, and I'm happy with that. So on average, I've been reliably getting 10 crackers, not uniform size as you can see, but they're very rustic, out of each half of dough, so you're going to get 20-ish crackers from each mix. You then put them into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius. Is that right? Oh gosh. I put these on for 12 minutes. You might need 12 to 15 minutes. You can tell when they're ready. They're a beautiful golden colour. You can also tell these could have gone in for a little bit longer because we've got residual wet dough in there. So I didn't have my oven quite hot enough. These are going to be delicious by the way, but they're going to need to be eaten quicker. If you want a really, they're crisp on the outside but they're slightly moist inside. So they could have done with another 3 minutes, 3-4 minutes on a hotter oven. And I had my oven on at 170, it should have been on at 180. So that gives you an example actually of when you just need to, it doesn't matter, it's a robust mix, just chuck it back in the oven. And in which case that's what I'm going to do now. I'll put those in for another 5 probably now. Beautiful, absolutely stunning flavour these, and a really, really lovely texture. So the ground almonds gives you moisture throughout the dough, and then that bakes off to give you a really, really crisp finish when you do it properly. And the fresh herbs are just sensational, really, really delicious. The more I think of it, the more I'm going to try now fresh mint with either fresh chilli, fresh red chilli or dried chilli. That's the recipe. Thank you very much for your attention during that. I've got a few shout outs to do. Abby and Lewis, hello, happy baking from Oxford. B and Sam from Sixpenny Handley in, I think that's in Wiltshire. Zach, Yaya, Faris, Winston and Lorne, all here in gorgeous Holwell, Dorset. Hello, happy baking. If you like our video, please don't hesitate to share, that would help us out enormously. And also, if you'd like to go online to honeybuns.co.uk, have a look at our online shop. We've got some really fab offers on at the moment. You can pick up the book, it's on offer at the moment for £10. And also, if you could sign up for our newsletter, we'd massively appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Happy baking.